welcome to another video on the summit, and I'm very, very happy to have here with me Tom Nuyens. Welcome.
Likewise.
Tom is, well, as you can see, he's, or I don't know if you can see that, but he was Mr. World, or you are still
Oh,
Mr. World to me.
more,
That's another
more than
lifetime,
20
right?
years ago.
More than 20 years ago. That was
Yes,
a long time ago.
a long time
And
ago.
and now you're working really directly with emotions, and you have these online coachings, you do coachings, and you are really, to me, a very clear expert on the topic of emotions. Can you
Thank
let
you.
us can you let us know a little bit about what you do nowadays and how maybe the shift came about from your old life to a new life?
Actually, the first shift or the first wake-up call was when I was like around 8 years old, when I got meningitis, which is a life-threatening disease. And I was all alone in quarantine in the hospital, so I couldn't see my sisters, my parents. I was really isolated, like we all are right
Right
now,
now,
in
yeah.
a way.
I thought about that
And
too. It's like you had this experience back then already.
yeah, but
So
it was a little bit more extreme though,
and
because
you were more alone, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But after a certain period of time where actually all the life was sucked out of my body, I didn't have actually enough energy to lift my hand, for example. And after a kind of fear that I got to, is this the end? It was translated into a warm feeling that everything is okay.
Mhm.
And that was one part of the awakening. And then the other part was that when I was 12 years old, I was very skinny. My limbs were actually thicker than my joints.
Mhm.
Oh no, the
Hard
other
to
way
believe
around.
now.
Yeah, exactly. And I was being laughed at, and I don't know if you have ever been laughed at. That's not
Mm,
really a nice feeling.
mm,
And then I tried to mask my appearance in layers of clothing, and then I was unmasked again. And then I learned everything about fitness, nutrition. And to make a long story short, after another 7 years, when 12 to 19, at the age of 19, I became the first Mr. World by accident. Actually,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was a weird experience. And I got all the status symbols. I lived in Miami, in New York, flew to my job with a private jet and all the glamour and glitter. And now you would think, well, Tom, great, wonderful. Now
You
you have
made it.
found your complete fulfillment and whatever. But actually, after those short shots of satisfaction, it didn't actually give me any fulfillment at all. I was still confronted with my feelings of unworthiness that weren't solved, with my feelings of loneliness, emptiness inside. And actually, I was trying to find relief from my unsolved issues in creating success.
Hmm.
And I actually reached world success with all the status symbols included. And it actually almost gave me the opposite feeling. And then combined with the experience in the hospital when I was 8, that gave me like a calm feeling that everything would be okay. That's actually totally the opposite of what we would think we would aim for, right?
Yeah.
So it turned my life completely upside down, because all the securities upon which I had built my entire life upon to find relief in creating success, in creating the best relationship or whatever,
Mm,
it didn't work for me.
mhm.
And actually, I didn't know what to do anymore, because creating more success, no, that wouldn't work. So
Wouldn't that? Hmm.
there was actually a depression, a burnout,
Hmm.
so to speak. And but people think that a depression, a burnout, or whatever you are experiencing is something bad, but it's actually, it brings you way closer to who you truly are. It's only like a red dashboard light to tell you that you are heading in the wrong direction. So it's a
Hmm.
very valuable sign. And once you start reading the signs the way they are supposed to, then life opens up, and then life actually begins. And basically, what it tells you to do is to make actually a 180-degree U-turn straight towards who you truly are past your unsolved issues. And that is the whole journey. So it started, and then that is actually the greatest journey I ever experienced. Far greater than flying to a job with a private jet or to be on the cover of a magazine in underwear or whatever. It's completely the opposite.
Right.
And once you experience that independent fulfillment, because otherwise you stay dependent of someone or something,
Yeah.
and automatically you are when you are dependent, you get a fear to lose it again.
Yeah.
And when you're continuously afraid, there's no fulfillment to be found. And still, we don't question that direction, and we keep on heading in that direction. So all the fears, the diseases, which actually create diseases, are helping warning signals instead of something, a tasteless joke that life throws at us.
Yeah.
So life is actually it's way more intelligent than we are. But once we start understanding it, then it's like opening a gift. And that's why I'm talking to you, because I want to pay it forward to as many people as possible.
That's beautiful, and it's a great message, and it's such a clear message, and I think it's wonderful that you. I mean, you are one of those people that clearly have by our social standards have really reached to very high degree what success can look like in this society. And at the same time, you notice, well, that's not the end. I mean, a lot of people who get really famous, they kind of then try to get more and more and more and more, or they have a total breakdown and then they're kind of gone. But you seem to have really reached that place, and maybe you can let us know a little bit about the difference in feeling that having success but still fear that you might lose it. It can still feel good in the moment, right? So for a little bit, for some time, you feel like elated or you feel like I've made it. But how is it different now that you say, well, you're not afraid of losing the success anymore. You're not afraid of losing anything anymore. What's kind of the difference in feeling for you now and back then, even when you were successful?
Well, the difference is if it isn't there anymore, you still feel independently fulfilled. And at the beginning, when you are creating success, there's always a fear involved to lose it again. And actually, it's quite simple how it works. Why is there a fear to lose it? Because actually the success that we are trying to achieve serves as a bandage to not feel our unsolved issues.
Right.
So our successes that we are aiming for are actually big distractions from who we truly are. And we're trying to create an identity or find an identity outside of ourselves by running away from ourselves. We're trying to find a feeling of fulfillment by running away from our feelings. That's completely a contradiction, and we don't question that direction.
Right.
So it's a wake-up call once we actually, I believe if I wouldn't have experienced the nearly death experience, that I may be still there trying to
reach more
wonder.
success or yeah.
Because I know some very famous people, and they're still like wandering around, but putting up their masks in front of the television or in front of an interview. And that are the people that we are looking up to.
Right.
While in fact, they're more distance from who they truly are than some people who are looking up to it. Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So it's completely the opposite.
Yeah.
But then again, life is full of contradictions, because once you make the 180-degree U-turn, it doesn't mean that you have to go to live on a mountain and keep on praying. And it's not like that. It's actually once you find your complete fulfillment within and include the external, but in freedom, then everything pours out automatically without any effort and without any fear to lose it again.
Yeah.
So then it's more like a flow. And that's what they mean when they say you have to live or to go with the flow. it doesn't mean you have to repeat what everyone is doing. It means you have to find your flow, and emotions. There's actually means energy in motion. That's a flow.
Yeah.
And we block that flow all the time because we run away into distractions. And those distractions are actually blocking our flow, our own flow.
So the distractions or where we are going to is actually not where we should be going to, or it's actually not getting us what we really want. It's actually the opposite,
Exactly.
right? And only when we put on the band-aid for a little bit, it might hurt a little less for a moment, but then it festers underneath and it'll just burst open again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And you become more and more restless because you accumulate
Yeah.
more and more different distractions, and you want to keep all of them, because once one distraction gets eliminated, it means some unsolved issue can burst through the surface, and then you start feeling the pain again. So you accumulate more and more and more, and at the same time you want to keep them, and you want to keep
Yeah.
find new and new ones. So it's a really exhausting direction, and
Yeah.
that's why there are depressions, burnouts,
Burnout.
to give you a very valuable wake-up call.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I sure know what that feels like.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Otherwise,
yeah, I didn't
otherwise
think
you
of
wouldn't
that.
be smiling now.
Yeah, it's you're probably right. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking to each other, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, and you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. So,
Yeah,
right. It's interesting that there are contradictions, and you're saying, you know, you're still creating success, but it's a different way of creating. It's not really.
it's effortless.
It's effortless. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
different. The
Yeah.
difference is because also at the beginning, when I started to find my fulfillment, I started thinking in a spiritual way. No, I cannot enjoy success anymore. No,
Right.
then you have to include everything. The once you start to eliminate certain parts, you are not whole anymore.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
That's also ego. If you say, I don't want to create success because then I'm not evolved, that's also
It's also
not whole.
misalignment, not whole.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's also holding on to an identity instead of letting it flow from one way to the other.
Yeah, and I know it's kind of it's a meandering way at first. I think it feels, at least to me, but maybe you can let us know a little bit about how to read the signs correctly. Because for me, it is a little bit of trying out, and sometimes I would sit and meditate, and then I think when I'm not in a good mood or something happened that's bad to me, to my mind, and then I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to continue just be meditating here. I'm missing out on a lot. I should be doing this and out there in the world and creating something. But then I stay with myself. I try to really stay with the meditation. So what would you recommend? How do you read the signs correctly instead of being distracted too much? Is there a good way?
There's an easy trick actually. If you stop doing with what you are doing and you still feel good, then you are doing it in freedom. And if you stop doing what you're doing and you start feeling restless, which means you need distractions for unsolved issues, that
Right.
means you are doing it as a compensation to run away from yourself. So that's a very easy trick. Um, I also have like a free checklist on my website where you can actually fill out, or you can check whether you are running away from something or not. So it's
Right.
like the little red dashboard lights in your car. And once you
Nice.
get the overview, then you can start changing what is red into no lights anymore, so to
Well,
speak.
that's
Yeah.
pretty easy. That's a good way. I like that.
Yeah.
To check if I stop what I'm doing and I still feel good, I'm doing it out of flow,
Of
being
free
in the
will.
flow and free will.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if I don't feel good and I feel restless, no, it's clearly something that I'm distracting myself with. Well, I think that's really cool. And maybe we can link to the checklist as well and below the video or so. Maybe if
Yeah.
there's a link, then we'll put it there. That's really cool. So here's another question I have, because I've taken your course, I've gone through a lot of your stuff, and I really liked how clear you are, how easy it is, and
Thank you. I think that's that. I had to learn that too, because
yeah,
it's a quite a complex matter,
I was gonna
and
say that
and
exactly perfect. Yeah.
and we need to simplify it, because actually simplification is the ultimate sophistication. Like so, I think the more simpler we can experience it,
Yeah.
the easier we can pay it forward to others. So that's why that's my main goal, and I'm glad it came across that way. So
It did clearly for me. Now, some people feel overwhelmed by emotions, right? Or some people are so stuck in a certain thought pattern
mhm.
that either the emotion is not accessible. It's like, oh, I seem to feel nothing, and I've been there.
Yeah.
Or I'm so overwhelmed that it hurts so much that I feel, well, this is not really, this can't be right. I seem to be traumatizing myself here. What
Mhm.
would you tell people, either who are stuck and don't feel really, or who are so overwhelmed with their emotions? What can they do? Are they still, supposed to continue the way they are doing it, or what would you tell them?
People that are stuck, actually, we can tell that everyone is first stuck
Stuck,
in their
yeah,
emotions, because
yeah.
we are conditioned, like I said before, we're conditioned to find relief from our unsolved issues in finding distraction, in creating success.
Yeah.
And we believe to find a feeling by running away into our thinking. So
Hmm.
that's why our thinking is our biggest band-aid in the first place,
Yeah.
because it has to scan for distractions all the time. And that's why we are so restless. That's why we have that chatter voice in our mind that never seems to stop.
Yeah.
But when our suppressing thinking or analyzing thoughts are suppressing our emotions, then it's only logical that we don't feel them anymore. And that's the whole purpose of it. So the first thing to change is to become radical honest with ourselves that we are doing that act. If we are not
Hmm.
honest with ourselves, there's no way we can change. And
Right.
that's why that I created that checklist, because once we have an overview of the checklist and see, oh shit, we're doing this, this, and this.
Right.
Oh, okay. And then it becomes clear. And only when it becomes clear, we can start making a direction change. And only if we make a little change, our life will become drastically different in a few years, only by making a little change.
Yeah.
But for making a little change is difficult if we don't have an overview and clarity in our minds, and also if we don't have a direction.
Yeah.
And since we are so brought up to have only one direction away from ourselves, then it's only logical that there's so many people committing suicide, feeling depressed, trying to suppress it with medication, but it
Yeah.
doesn't work because it's still heading in the opposite direction of where they have to go to. So the first thing I believe they have to do is to become radical honest and admit that they're not feeling well.
Yeah.
Admit that they're restless in their minds.
Yeah.
Admit that their distractions only give short shots of satisfaction and doesn't give them what they're truly are looking for. Admit
Right.
that their relationships are still repetitive, even if they change partners. That they
Yeah.
still get the same lessons all
Results
over.
and all over. Yeah. Yeah.
Once you start to admit that, then you are ready for the big change. Exactly.
Oh, wow. I agree. Like, really asking ourselves, like, what am I not admitting here? What am I not trying to face here? What is like sometimes it's so close, like it's the elusive obvious, I would say. It's so
Yeah.
obvious that we're not, and then once we get it, it's like, oh yeah, I really feel like shit about this person or about this situation,
Yeah.
or and I've tried and tried and it doesn't work. And really, the issue I can relate to that, that I've made issues that aren't the core issue. The core issue was then much closer, was much simpler usually than what I made it up in my mind to be. And I think, well, we learn as children, of course, to make up things in our mind to deal with, to deal with situations when we were little and we weren't maybe taken care of the way we should have been or so, or we've just been in situations that were not good. And then there are so many distractions in the world and society telling us, well, you could do this or you could do that, you could take this pill or you could,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
whole economy
economy
is
is based on that.
built on it. Huh?
Yeah,
That's the whole thing. But that's why I think quarantine, where that's happening right
right
now, it's
now. Yeah,
actually a great opportunity.
yeah,
It's great because when we cannot get out, it's the perfect opportunity to
to
turn
turn in.
inward and explore the vast richness that's inside, that has been covered for way too long, that we aren't aware of it yet.
Yeah,
Because in each and every one of us, there's a vast pool of creativity inside. Everyone is so creative to create and to give and to receive abundance in return automatically. But when we are not aware of it, that's quite a shame, because then you
right.
don't feel your own flow in experience.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned that you had to deal with grief and also with the fear of death at a very young age, and
Mm-hmm.
you had this experience of kind of really getting through that, getting over that, and at one point letting go and saying, even if I die now, it's fine, or something like that. I hope I read you
Yeah,
correctly
you're
there.
completely right.
Yeah,
Actually, I learned to accept death 100%. I'm not
yeah,
afraid of dying
yeah.
anymore since that day. And actually, that's the first, when I accepted dying, that's the first step of accepting living 100%.
Yeah. I think that's also a big part of this, isn't it? Like, if we're not accepting fully that we could die and or that we will die at one point, and that's okay, then I agree. Then we cannot really live that full potential.
Hmm.
And it might have taken you still after that. I mean, you went through, you still had your issues to go through, but it
Hmm.
seems to me that when you woke up or when you became clear about what's really important and kind of you found your path, so to speak.
Not immediately, because
Right.
it was like a wake up call.
Yeah.
But then you see everyone around you hunting for success. So first of all, you don't understand what they're doing, and then you say, "Yeah, everyone is doing it, so I should do
I
it
should do
too."
it
And
too. Yeah.
yeah, and then I felt really alone, because they didn't understand that I was
Yeah.
looking at leaves, like drops falling on the leaf, and say, "Oh, how beautiful!" And they say, "Come create success." And
Great
so it's
success.
like
Don't look at leaves.
exactly.
Stop doing your weird waking
Yeah,
up
and
stuff here.
probably I was weird, but
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't
can
matter.
relate.
So I really felt alone for a long time as well,
Right.
because it didn't connect with as many people at that
Mm,
time. And then,
mm,
but it was a path first, a wake up call. Then I
yeah.
fell asleep again, because I was starting to go the same path as the conditioning. And then
Hmm.
you go to
Hmm.
sleep, and then you wake up again.
Yeah.
So it's not like you wake up and you stay
And you
woken
stay
up
on path
if
and that's it.
if you
Yeah.
don't have a path.
Yeah.
But my intention is to give a crystal clear direction and path straight away to waking up and to enjoying what you are experiencing once you woke up, that you find your complete creativity,
Hmm.
your authentic purpose from which you are designed to flow over into natural abundance, not to need the natural abundance,
Yeah.
but because abundance is like flow, and flow is what life means. Everything that is alive to the fullest flows to the fullest, and everything that stops flowing or blocks gets disease symptoms and turns into a flat line. So if you want to flow, then abundance is just a natural consequence. It's like a green dashboard light that you
Mm.
are but you don't, the difficult part is you don't have to aim for it,
Yeah.
but you have to find it within so you can pour it out
Hmm.
automatically.
And I think
That's the contradiction again.
that again is the contradiction, and maybe I don't know from your own experience or from working with people with clients. Let me know what your experience is. From my experience, it's we lose it and we get it again, we lose it again, but we seem to be getting it deeper and deeper. But then sometimes we get lost in some kind of thing and we completely forget about this abundance within us. Was that for you as well, or is that also how you experienced
Yes,
it for
that
clients? Yeah,
that in beginning it's like a pendle. I don't know
yeah,
if it's the
yeah.
right
Pendulum,
correct
more
word, but
pendulum. Mhm.
and then when it's in the middle, then you don't lose it as much
As
anymore. Then
much,
it's
right?
like,
It kind of it's more
yeah,
balanced,
you just see through it.
right?
You still see it, but you are not affected by it anymore.
Hmm.
That's the difference, actually.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow, this is very, very good to talk about all this with you, and it's such a straightforward conversation. I'm loving this. By the way,
Oh, me too. Me too. I'm glad you like it.
so, so cool. So what just came into my mind was so you're doing all this work, and there's clearly something that you've really got for yourself, but you're also giving this and paying it forward to other people. Do you have some kind of vision of what is possible for this world if people could find their abundance more? If what you're doing gets into the world with right now with the pandemic and difficulties, and people just kind of maybe having the chance to turn more inwards. Do you see some kind of vision there, or do you kind of just take it, go with the flow, or do you have a vision for the future?
I think we keep developing, and nature, as I said before, is far more intelligent than we are,
Mm.
and everything that we experience is with a very intelligent purpose to make us turn inward and to find our purpose and to become natural again, because what the way we are living, we are not really
Yeah,
living naturally.
yeah,
And nature does everything. Actually, the more resistance we experience from nature is like a
mm,
wake up call for us to become natural again. And the
yeah.
more natural we become, the more effortless our life will become.
Hmm.
And we just have to follow that flow.
Yeah,
And but when we don't know that, and we only think that there's only one direction, then life is a burden, of course.
yeah, yeah. So with that in mind, that the more resistance we get from nature, or the worse things seem to get, the more we have the chance to wake up. Is basically what you're saying, right? And
Yes, exactly. And once you wake up, then the resistance we get isn't resistance anymore. That's the contradiction again.
yeah, it's just a different way of seeing things. It's kind of a different. It's weird because it's a different way, a different standpoint almost, but it just turns the whole outlook on life
Yeah,
around, right?
yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Basically, on the outside, you could see two similar things, but from the inside is completely the opposite.
Yeah, yeah,
The experience completely the opposite.
right. So on the outside, it might still look the same, but it doesn't look the same. It's weird, right? It's like it's still the same situation, but it feels different, and then it's not the same situation. It's like it's that's also kind of a I have a hard time wrapping my mind around it, but it feels really good when you actually in it.
Yes, the thing is, you cannot wrap your mind around it. You can
Hmm.
only point at it
Yeah,
in order to be able to experience it. Once you start wrapping your mind around it, then you're actually suppressing who you
suppressing.
truly are, because your mind is only a suppressor of the experience.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So what's the function of the mind? If the mind is really, if yeah, I get that too. Like the more I try to put a framework around it and make it, well, this is the way it is, kind of for my mind, the less I seem to have it. And so what is the mind's purpose then? in your
the
opinion?
mind's purpose is actually a very valuable servant of who we truly are, but we cannot turn it around, because when
Right.
the mind is in control, that means that we're actually blocking who we truly are, and we're talking about emotions, then we are
Yeah.
blocking our emotions, our energy in motion, then we are creating from abundant living flow a
Yeah.
dis-ease and a flat line. So if our mind is not our servant, but the one who tells what to do, then we are going from a living being to a flat line.
Flatline, kind
But
of
on the
Walking
other
Dead.
hand, once you um, make that 180-degree U-turn and you revive from within, and then you use your mind as a valuable servant, then it's very powerful.
Yeah. So what do you recommend people who are watching this? What would be the best starting point if they say, well, I want to do that right now. I want to kind of really go the other way. I don't want to my mind to be controlling me all the time, but I would actually like to control my mind. But well, mind control is kind of a difficult thing to do. Also, it's not like we're controlling our thoughts or anything, right? It's so how do you do that? What's a good way to start? What's your recommendation?
Yeah, first of all, the overview to know where you are actually looking for distractions. So
Right,
you know already, once you do the distraction, that you are aware of it. Right now, I'm running away from my feeling. So that's
right,
not the right direction.
yeah,
That's a very important start, the radical honesty.
yeah,
The second part is to get over your fears to go the 180-degree U-turn. And I have made also a very valuable tool on my website. Maybe you can link to as well,
we'll put it as a free
to get,
gift, right?
yeah, the
Is
free
it?
gift, to
Yeah,
get past
perfect.
every symptom of fear. It's past the symptom of fear already, so you know that you will get there anyway. And once you have that, then there's another very important factor, is that you have to know already beforehand that it is also possible for you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't open the door. And if you don't know, for example, if I would tell you, to make it, yeah, let's say at the end of 5 kilometers, there's a bag of gold for you, and 100% if you go there, you will get it.
Mm-hmm.
You will get it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In the
Yeah.
same way. But if you don't really know, or you don't really
That
know
there is
where it
something.
is, then
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't even bother. And in the
Exactly.
same way, realizing or having proof that it's also possible for you to flush out all of your unsolved emotions,
Mm-hmm.
which are standing in the way of who you truly are,
Mm-hmm.
is also possible for you, then you would proceed
Start
in
doing
that
it.
direction.
Yeah.
And also in the free gift, I have a proof that shows you that. So you can also link to, if you want to.
Oh, for sure.
So that's already a very good start. And
Mm-hmm.
then I have another free gift, if you like, that is the truth about fear and pain that will set you already free.
Mm-hmm.
And
Let's
you will see.
Okay, okay. All right. I'm looking forward to checking that one out if I
Yeah,
haven't seen it yet. But the
yeah,
people here who are viewing this can check all that out, and we'll link to it under the interview. So um, that's a great start, and I recommend people to if they resonate, and I think it resonated with me. The clarity, as I said before, resonated with me strongly, and also that you're saying, okay, so it's really both. You need to dig into kind of what you might not be comfortable feeling,
mhm,
but at the same time, we have to kind of know there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We have to go towards something, otherwise we wouldn't even bother to go there. Um, so I have just another question going back to your experience with kind of getting rid of the fear of death. And there's another thing that seems to me that something you've dealt with as well is, and that's grieving, and that's kind of, I think, on the one side it's being okay with or getting rid of fear, being okay with difficult situations, but also letting go um, of maybe something that we are very attached to, letting go of that. So what do you have to say on grief? Like, what's grief for? How do you deal with it? How have you dealt with it maybe in your own life? Can you speak to that?
Yes. Actually, when we're continuously dying, for example, where is your body from 10 years ago?
Clearly dead.
Where is it? Where's
It's
your body
not
from
not
20
here
years ago?
anymore, right? It's not
You
here.
see?
Yeah.
And still, we are identifying ourselves with our body, right?
Yeah.
So we're continuously identifying with an identity that we are not,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, we do the same with other people. And also, we use, if we like it or not, we also use other people as a distraction from our own unsolved issues. And for example, we, at least I was addicted to my partner in a relationship. I used to be that way. And then it was only to mask my own unsolved issues of not wanting to be alone with myself and my unsolved issues.
Right.
So that's why I didn't want her to go away, or I broke up the relationship beforehand so she couldn't leave
Right.
me, and all
Yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
mechanisms you get.
I have
But
no
that's
idea what you're
only,
talking about.
excuse me.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No,
I can
but
relate so well. Yeah.
yeah, but that's very important to become radical honest with ourselves that that
Yeah.
is what happened, and it
Yeah.
has only to do with our own unsolved issues that we
Right.
were trying to mask
Mask.
by distracting ourselves with that relationship. That's also the
Right.
reason why, for example, people choose for difficult people in a relationship, or for
Right.
from bad relationship, because they are a very good distraction from yourself.
Yeah. That's such a good answer. It's right, and it comes back to being with ourselves, being with who we are, and being fine with that, right? And that might take a while, right? It might take going through a lot of emotions there and
Yes, it
acceptance.
actually, when you take the shortcut, which is a 180-degree U-turn, and you go straight past all the unsolved issues and you learn to flush them out, which I also learned through that course in
Yeah.
practical, simple steps, and also with lifetime support if necessary. Um, it's very easy, because once you flush them out, the only thing left to be experienced is the independent feeling of fulfillment.
Right.
And when there's independent feeling of fulfillment, that's the first part, or the keystone to start truly relating with someone without the fear of losing them again.
Right.
And that's the same thing with, that's the first part, to start enjoying success without losing it again, because
Yeah.
you feel independently fulfilled anyway.
Right. So in that way, success and relationships or personal relationships may be very similar in that sense that
If you use the
if you,
relationship as a bandage
yeah.
completely, but once you truly connect with your core past the unsolved issues and you feel completely independently fulfilled with yourself, then you start celebrating that feeling with someone, because you are allowed to connect with that person, and
Right.
that person connects with you as well. And then that's a celebration that's completely on a totally different relationship scale than we are conditioned to have relationships. And we have relationships that I give you sex in return for financial security,
Right.
but we are not really truly connecting with our cores, and we actually preventing the other person to have contact with their core,
Right.
because it's like a wall around our core, and two walls are connecting with, like, I give you this
I
and
give
you
them and
give
you give
me
me
that,
that.
but that's not really connecting at all. It's only giving bandages, and you become mad. Hey, you don't give me the bandage, and I have given you this, and that's not correct. And now I am allowed to be mad at you, but that's not really relating. But that's how 90% of the relationships are
At
being
least.
made. Yeah.
Yeah, at least, right? At least 90%. And then they fall apart at some point and or
or
become very
or
different, or
or
they stay
you
together
get
and
the opportunity to take a 180-degree U-turn and say,
right.
to be radical honest with myself, I feel this way because I have unsolved issues, and that's why I blame you the fact that I have unsolved issues,
Yeah.
but I'm going to solve it within myself. And then you can transform that difficult relationship into a truly connecting relationship.
Wow.
So it doesn't have to be that you have to run from the circumstance or the relationship where
Right.
you're at, but you can transform it once you transform yourself.
Right.
Sometimes people say, no, the other person has to be willing to do the same. Not truly. That's not
That's
true.
my next
Because
question, right? Yeah.
no, once you become truly light, but completely,
Yeah.
then there cannot be shadow around you.
Right.
Then either the shadow will run away as fast as he or she can,
Yeah.
or she turns into light as well,
Right.
without explaining, because that's one of the
There's
pitfalls as well.
yeah.
If you start to explain, I know, and you don't know, then there's no connection, and there's not.
I've certainly done my share of that, of trying to explain. But
Yeah,
if you change, then we
you
could
only
have
have
a
to
good
change
life.
yourself. You
Right.
only have to. That's actually easy, because you cannot control somebody else, but you
Yeah.
can control to be willing to allow yourself to solve your own issues. And once
Mm,
you do that and you turn your own darkness into light, then
mm.
everything around you will change into light as
Into life.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such an important message, I think. And people who are listening and who are struggling with relationships, and I sure know how that feels, then yeah, listen in. I think this is such an important point. And it's so hard to believe when you're in it that the only person that needs to change is yourself or myself and whoever's listening, yourself. Um, you don't need to explain anything. Don't need to change anyone else.
No, 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 no.
And
And
right. So maybe
and
they will leave, but then they will really leave quickly, right? And or they turn around as well and they become light.
yes. And actually, the relationships that you are having, and maybe it's confronting that I say that, but that is exactly the mirror of the relationship that you are having with yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And that might hurt too. That might be yeah, that's something to recognize and to
Yeah.
acknowledge and to actually say, yeah, it hurts. Like I
And for
hurt
example,
myself. Yeah.
if you're having a relationship with someone who crosses your boundaries all the time, it means you are having a relationship with yourself that you cross your
Cross
own
your
boundaries all the
boundaries.
time, and you're not respecting your own self.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's also linked to lack of self-worth within. And lack of self-worth is because you are not connected with your true self.
Mm.
And then you don't feel your self-worth. It's actually easy because we believe that self-worth is to be found in what other people think of us, but
Oh, right.
that is others people's worth. It doesn't have to
It's
do anything with self-worth.
worth. Mm. People get a lot from you from the free gift to actually make that happen, to actually start doing the work that's necessary, and getting rid of the blocks that are inside us from feeling that self-worth. And yeah, I recommend checking it out and sticking with it and doing the work because it's definitely worth it. So yeah. So Tom, this is such a wonderful conversation. I would love to continue this at another time if you like. Maybe we have another chance to dive in even more deeply. This is really wonderful. Anything that we haven't said, anything you would like to share or we haven't covered that, or any message do you have to people out there?
Um, Simply put, turn every blockage, also called trauma, into flow again, will make you feel alive to the fullest again. And there are many tools that you can check already to make
Hmm.
this transition happening.
Hmm.
And once you are willing to do it, you
Hmm.
will experience it. And we can
You're
talk
right.
about it many times, but actually, once you put it into action, you will
Right.
experience, and only when you experience it, you will know it by heart. And
Yeah.
that is what I want you to experience,
Yeah.
actually.
That's great. And it's not about cognitively knowing in our head. It's really feeling and living
No.
it, right? And
You cannot live through
from
mind tricks.
certainly.
The mind tricks are not there
No.
to guide you. The
No.
guidance has to come from within and from feeling, from energy emotion, and not from something that suppresses the energy
Yes.
emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's quite a journey. It can be quite a journey, but definitely a worthwhile one. Yeah. And you mentioned that it's that blockages are really equal to trauma that we experienced. Is that
Mhm.
also something that you would say? Yeah, that it's really all kind of trauma related, and trauma probably in a way it doesn't have to be this, huge event in our life that we actually
No,
remember, but it could be something that we don't quite remember, or something that seems from the outside a very small thing, but for a little child might be quite a traumatic thing,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, for everyone different.
Right. Well, that will be a conversation on its own, I think. So thank you
Next
so
time, man.
much. Yeah, next time, definitely. I'd love to chat more if you if you're up for it. So,
Yes, definitely.
so Tom, all the best for you. Thanks for taking part in this. I think this is much needed, and it's very enlightening. I think people can take a lot away from this. I hope this was fun for you too, and really all the best from my heart, and much gratitude to you.
Likewise, it was very. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's great what you are doing. So you are paying forward who you are, and that's nice to see. So keep uh, let as much people enjoy who you truly are.
Likewise, thank you.
Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Thank you.
Bye.